Welcome to the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, where rude mechanicals do magic. Hello, I'm Bronze Age, Director of the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage. And today in the lab we've got this old Hutch, which has some issues that need to be addressed, other repairs to be done, and we're going to make a video all about it. The obvious problem here is there's a door missing. Fortunately, we're not going to be able to do anything about that on this particular job. We also have this broken arch support for the Hutch back. That we will be fixing, as well as a few other small pieces. This tabletop here does not match, fit tight against the back, and that's just a result of age and swelling and shrinking and things pulling loose. We're trying to address that. I believe this piece is English made, mostly because it's olive oak. When I say it's olive oak, even the drawer side, the drawer back, and the drawer bottom are all oak. If this had been made in America, we'd expect to see this made out of pine or poplar or something like that. Pieces like this always contain a surprise when you start looking at them very closely. Now, even though they went for dovetails in the front, the back is made with simple dado on each side, and the bottom just nailed into it. No dovetails here in the back. The surviving door is going to need some attention. This beaded trim work has come off, which reveals a little bit of the raised panel construction. This is a real raised panel. This is hand carved. This little flower motif with the vines and all. Another interesting feature of the construction is the hinges. They're solid brass leaf hinges, but they're fastened with flathead screws against the face, and then double depth mortised into the door for a nice fit. I can imagine that saved a little bit of time, only having to do one mortise. This arch brace is going to need to be repaired, and as usual with these sorts of things, somebody tried to repair it with just driving nails into it, which never works more than a day or two. Besides tightening up all the loose joints where the glue has given up, the back is bowed and it's forced to pop out, but there's a gap in here, and we're going to take care of that. Got another sawhorses to make this next part a little more comfortable. The top is held on with these cleats. And whatever nails they decided to drive into it. Definitely nails. There's a row of nails driven up from the bottom, which came out fairly easy. And then there's some driven in from the back. The trick to this is bearing on surfaces that aren't going to show when the furniture is assembled. And going just ever so slightly, one nail to the next, so that you don't concentrate the stress in one place. The problem with the back being bowed and creating the gap at the tabletop is going to be fairly easy to fix because it's so lightweight. But being so lightweight means it's also going to be kind of a pain. Because they had nails driven straight into the back of the top board, but this is a panel in grooves, so a raised panel. So the nail goes right through the base of the groove the panel goes into. My intention is to put screws in here, which will hold better than nails will through the generations, but at the same time, there's really not enough structure here going through that thin piece of wood, through the gap, and then through the other side to actually pull the tabletop back. So I'm going to have to reinforce this back strip with something simple, just so the screw head won't pull through. The solution is a little piece of oak here, taken from the scrap pile, cut down to about 3/8 inch thick. And it will be the backing for a couple of 2-inch screws that will go into the back of the tabletop. Hold it firmly against the back here and keep it nice and straight. In the old furniture mills, the nails really served just as cheap clamps. They weren't really used as fasteners, certainly not in the permanent sense, but they kept everything in place while the glue dried, or while these cleats could be installed. I don't reuse flathead screws, but these are an odd length. None of the screws in my hardware cabinet come close, and I don't want any screws punching out through the top of the table here. Thinks it's time to go home. I've got a piece that I want to get glued up before we shut down for the day, despite what he thinks about the idea. What I've got to do here is try to get glue just on one side of this little piece of detail tubing, because I don't want glue on this panel. I want it to stick to the frame. For the whole purpose of the frame allow, you're going to get glue on your nose cap, allow for the expansion of the big panel. Doing it all together would just be a pointless exercise. We'll find out if he likes the taste of carpenter's glue. Just a moment. Whenever a cat sticks his foot in something wet, first thing he does is taste it. Like the way it tastes, he wipes it off on his forehead. Which also explains why Rudy often walks around with some strange colored dot right in the middle of his head, which happens to be the color of whatever I have to be painting at that moment. One more clamp, and we'll be done for the day and have to start this back over in the morning. One of the things you always got to be aware of when you're doing this kind of work is don't do more damage than you already were expected to repair. This is the part of the furniture repair video where I talk about hide glue and how it's made out of horses, which is why they used to call old horses glue pot. Fortunately, in this case, they don't seem to have used a lot of any kind of glue that was made of horses or otherwise. Because once I get a good toe hole under a piece of wood, it comes right off. Yeah, there was a little bit of glue on here, but it's long since given up. At the furniture mill where they made this piece, they didn't have a lot of clamps. They just used the nails as clamps. When I look at this piece here, I can see this is probably a new nail. These are probably old nails from the last time someone tried to repair this. I'm hoping this will probably be the last time anyone has to repair it. There's an inherent problem anytime you ask a board to make a 90-degree turn, is that whereas it might start off with the oak or the grain going in the right direction at the bottom, sooner or later it's going to turn sideways and create a very weak spot. In the days of wood shipbuilding, there was always a need for lots of curved pieces of wood like this. They call them knee braces between the frames of the deck and places like that. And what they would do is go find a part of the tree where the root came up and joined the trunk, or where the trunk branched off into the large branches. And the grain of the wood would follow that curve. They'd come along and just saw it out. We didn't get to take advantage of that. And that brought up another problem. Is anytime you have a piece of wood broke across the diagonal like that, when you go to clamp it, it's going to slide apart. So in order to get this piece done, we've got to immobilize it so it can't go anywhere. So that when we glue it down, clamp it, can't squeeze and get away from us. The glue up came out nice, looks good and strong. Don't think we'll have any more problems with that. originally was a tenon here, and because it was held in place with a nail when it was made, and someone came back and put another nail in it when it got loose, there wasn't much left of it. So we're going to have to come up with a little small insert floating tenon to put in here so we can hold this thing back in place when it's back on the hutch. Got the tenons on each end repaired. I'm ready to reinstall this piece, which is always a little tricky. I don't want to break it again. What I'm going to do is bed these tenons in some two-part epoxy. And this will fill all the voids and give some structural strength to this connection, as well as the adhesion, because it's necessary to make the tenons a good bit loose, just so you're sure that it'll actually fit in the piece and everything lines up. Some more in here. Go. We'll let that sit, and just the shelf to put on. This project will be finished. The last piece to go on is this top shelf, which is a very thin stock. It's a little less than 5/16 and a little more than 1/4 of an inch, and it's a victim of the hide glue and the nail treatment like the rest of it. I'm going to put it back together with little bitty screws instead of the nails. Once I get the screws in place, I can wipe off the squeeze out. The squeeze out on the bottom is going to disappear underneath the panel frame. One last touch is a pair of brass button head nails to secure the shelf. Gives a nice decorative touch, and I don't have to counterset the nail heads or use putty or anything like that. Looks nicer, and it's just a little easier. Well, this project is finished. So, I'm Bronze Age, Director of the Secret Underground Laboratory, thanking you for sticking with us this far. Rui thanks you, and we hope that you will like and subscribe. Look at some of our other videos. We'll have some more coming out real soon. Thank you very much.